this, relates to navigation and how you can go about the challenges that comes with growth and innovation. So can we have the slides for today's presentation? So as we have over there, I think the topic is navigating growth and innovation. Today in March 2024. Next slide. Yeah, to talk about growth. Why is it so important for us to talk about growth? I said earlier that this is a very important topic for us because everybody wants to experience growth. Every single individual wants to experience growth. Every business wants to experience growth. But why is this so important? For you to achieve success in any way, then you must have at least achieved some form of growth. And for you to achieve any form of sustainable success, what it means is that you need to be innovative. So no business has been able to stand the test of time without going through that stage of growth and definitely innovation, because any business that fails to continually change, improve its processes, or innovate will almost cease to exist. And this is the reason why it's important for us to talk about growth, talk about innovation, and how we can navigate the challenges that comes with it. Because nothing good, they say, comes easy. So if growth is good, then definitely it has to be fraught with challenges along the way. So I'm going to liken this to what we call the uneasiness of growth. Uneasiness of growth, because growth is never a destination, it's a continuous process. If we can imagine a young baby in the womb of the mother. So if you ask the baby that, okay, is there any environment better than where you are today? The baby will tell you that there is no other environment better than where he is in the womb of the mother. But when the baby comes out of the mother's womb into the new world, because of the changes that happens at that time, the baby cries. So the baby cries because he has to adapt to his new environment. I picked this from the Islamic religion, whereby it's been said that when a baby is in the womb of the mother, he sees that comfortable environment as the best environment for it. But when it comes into the new world, when he experiences that change, when he experiences that growth, then, he begins to find ways to adapt to his new environment. That is also what happens with growth. Growth, they say, is uneasy. So there are certain things, certain uncertainties that comes with growth. There are certain uneasiness that comes with growth. And I think we need to recognize this. And this is the reason for our discussion today. Basically, where we talk about how do we navigate the challenges, the uncertainties that comes with growth, and also innovation. So the reason you need to be prepared for growth is because growth comes with its own challenges, and your capability to predict how growth will impact you on your business is a strong determination of success. Do we get it again? Your capability at predicting how growth will impact you or your business is a strong determination of your success. Let's get that. Imagine a toddler, growing up and falling down with every step. Your move is not to stop the baby from attempting to walk. That's not what you do, but you have to find ways to protect that baby. So what do? You probably lay something soft on the floor so that whenever the baby falls down, there's something for the baby to fall on. So you are preparing for that growth. You're trying to protect the baby, So, and at the same time also, you can get a head guard. Once you get a head guard, you protect baby's head. So that is the same thing we do with a business. You are preparing for growth so that you are predicting how growth will affect or will impact your business. And that's what you need to do in every business. So this leads us to what we call the Nigerian story. And what is the Nigerian story? The Nigerian story is that Nigeria as a country was not well prepared for the growth it experienced. Nigeria as a country was not well prepared for the growth it experienced. During the oil boom, when Nigeria was making a whole lot of money, a whole lot of revenue, what happened? Nigeria never really prepared for the next phase of growth. So what happened? So some of the growth experienced during the oil boom, and this could explain the reason it was not prepared for further success. So that's the Nigerian story of growth. Every individual and business wants to experience growth, but only a select few successfully navigate the complexities that come with such growth. Only a select few, because we're going to talk about that later. We'll look at the statistics, telling us that a whole lot of businesses are not successful in navigating growth. And this is the reason why most businesses fall along the line and they never get into the other phases of growth. We need to also therefore understand the stages of growth. So this leads us to talk about the stages of growth. What are the stages of growth? What are the stages of growth? And this takes us to what we call the business life cycle. We will examine what they call the business life cycle. This talks about the various stages of growth and also the challenges that comes with them. And also, what should we focus on? You need to, as a business owner, you need to understand what stage of the business life cycle is your organization. What stage are you? Are you at the initial phase? Are you at the second stage? Are you at the third stage? And if you're at any of these stages, how do you prepare for the challenges that comes with it? And even when you prepare for the challenges that comes with it, what do you focus on as a business owner? And as an individual, what part of the life cycle are you, and how do you prepare for the changes that come with it? Next slide. Yeah, this is the business life cycle. The business life cycle, there have been so many illustrations for the business life cycle. This is one of them. I'm going to use this for this particular slide. The business life cycle is similar to what we call the human life cycle. And how is this so? Because, for example, when a founder sets up a new business, what happens is usually the only person in the business before he begins to look for ways to get people to join him. In the human life cycle, when you have a child, a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old child growing up, what happens? Most times you are showing the baby the way on how to get through in life. But it gets to a time that baby tells you, Dad, don't worry about this. I got this. So that is the same thing with the business. It gets to a time you've been able to grow your business up to a particular stage, and your team is able to tell you that, okay, sir, leave this to us. We'll continue with this. That is the same thing with the human life cycle and the business life cycle. So you started off yourself as a founder, but it gets to a time you are able to get people that will continue with it with you. So a founder started off and gets a team to support. Over time, this team is able to tell him, sir, leave this to us. We got this. We're going to continue with this. So that's the same way it is. So now, focusing on the business life cycle, the various stages of the business life cycle. First of all, we have the startup phase. This is the phase where you're just about starting up the business. After that, you have the growth phase. The growth phase is where you experience the best of time. You're having a lot of profit. You're having a lot of revenue. Your employees are staying with you. There's low turnover, because there's enough revenue to pay salaries. During the startup phase, you're going to have some challenges. Some of the challenges you're going to have is that employees will be coming and they'll be going because your business structure is not well in place at that time. Employees will come and go. Profitability is there for good businesses, but you are not making profits yet. And there are certain important things that you need to look for at this stage. There should be certain things you need to focus on at this stage. There should be certain things that you should be concerned about at this stage. It is the inability of some founders or leaders to focus on certain important things that actually leads to the failure of most other organizations. And we also talk about the number of organizations that fail at this phase. There's a whole lot of them. So as we said, we have the startup phase, we have the growth phase, we have the expansion. Because once there's a lot of money, what do? Businesses begin to expand. But you need to also plan for this. If you don't plan for the phase of expansion, you realize that a whole lot of problem commences and starts. From the expansion phase, you move into maturity. The maturity is where the business is a bit more stable. During the maturity phase, the business is a bit more stable. The business has regular income coming in. You have your huge customer base with you. And, a whole lot of things is predictable. After this, you have the transition phase. And, finally, then you begin to plan for either exiting the business or the business going into what they call a decline. So according to statistics, let's go back, please, to that slide. According to statistics, many businesses will not even get to most of the stages I've told you about. According to statistics, most businesses are not going to even go beyond the startup phase. They're not going to get to this growth phase. And even for business that get into the growth phase, a lot of them are not going to move into expansion. A lot will not get to maturity. And I'll be able to show you examples of various organizations and where they are on the business life cycle. Statistics also tell us, research tells us that 1 out of 5 businesses will not make it to their first birthday. 1 out of every 5 businesses, that means at least 20% of every known businesses will not be able to scale the first year. That is a whole lot. What means that, but what you need to ask yourself is that those businesses that you see that don't make it to their first birthday, what happened to them? Sometimes, a friend just copies another friend. Somebody feels that, oh, somebody is starting a retail business here. That means it's making money. That means I can also start a retail business. You are doing it because you see someone else do it. You've not been able to test the business. You've not been able to carry out your feasibility. These are some of the issues we're going to be talking about. And also, research also tells us that 5 out of every 10 businesses will fail within the first 5 years. What it means is that 50% of all businesses will cease to exist within the first 5 years. So I tell you, if you've not been able to push your business beyond 5 years, you've not even started at all. You've not even started at all. If you've not been able to push your business beyond the first 5 years, you've not even started at all. It's as simple as that, because majority of businesses are going to collapse within the first 5 years. Now, only 3 out of 10 businesses will make it to their 10-year mark. What it means is that a whopping 70% of businesses will have gone down the line, before their 10 years. So we need to be prepared for these challenges. We need to identify these challenges. We need to be able to know how to navigate through these challenges to become successful as an individual and as a business person. Yes. Now I'm going to use another illustration of the business life cycle, different from the first one I used. And this begins with what we call the conceptualization phase. This is also what is referred to as the ideation phase. This is the phase whereby you're thinking about what you want to do. You are creating the idea in your mind. The concept of what you want to do is being generated. So this is the conceptualization phase. This is the ideation phase. This is where you are thinking about, what should I do? What do I want to do? Will it succeed? Will it not succeed? Because every single business is battered by an idea. The first thing is an idea. And really, what should lead into your idea? It should be tested. It's actually a matter of demand and supply. It's not just your gut feeling that I want to do this business. Every business must meet a need. Any business that doesn't meet a need of people is not likely to succeed, because the customer, the people are at the end of your business. A business exists, there's demand, there has to be demand for what you're selling, and there has to be an offering. Somebody offers a service and somebody demands for it. If there is no demand for your business, then definitely your business cannot succeed. So those has to be there at the beginning. So the conceptualization phase is where you are thinking about what you want to do, where you are getting the idea of what to do. And this is extremely very important. What should be your goal during this period? As a business person, what should be your goal? What should you focus on? First of all, you have the idea of what you want to do. I want to sell this, I want to sell that. I want to set up a hospital, I want to set up a laboratory, I want to set up a pharmacy. So what do? You test your feasibilities. You test feasibilities to be sure there will be demand for your service or product. That is your goal. It's still at the ideation phase. You test feasibilities. Let us carry out feasibility studies. Let us see if this is going to succeed or is not going to succeed. If there's going to be demand for my product or there won't be demand for my service. So this is also the period where we are talking about the location, or what we call the location, 5 P's of marketing. That is the place element of the marketing mix. The place element. Where do I set up my business? You may have a very good business idea, but your location is not right. So this is, this is extremely very important. So this is where you are testing that during the conceptualization phase. The place element of the marketing mix is tested at this period. So those are the goals. So you are testing feasibilities. That's how you navigate that challenge. You are testing feasibilities at this time. And there are certain things that comes up at this stage. What are the challenges that you face at this stage that can actually even, lead to the demise of some business ideas? Now identifying and pursuing a market niche that offers sustainable demand is a major challenge. You are trying to identify, you are trying to pursue a market niche that offers sustainable demand. You may have an initial demand, but that demand may not be sustainable. You have to look at it over time. Is this demand, okay? If you get 20 people requesting for your service at the point in time, what happens? Are you going to be able to get 25, 30 people, 50 people over time? So that's what we call sustainable demand. So the challenge with this phase is that you want to be sure that for the long term, there will be good enough demand for my product. So that is the challenge that you're going to be faced with. You want to be able to identify, you want to be able to pursue a market niche, a niche for yourself within the market. It could be a small niche. It doesn't have to be a very big niche, that offers sustainable demand for your product. And finally, what do you focus on? You create a business plan. I can tell you that go research, go through people, talk to people. A whole lot of people don't even have a business plan for their business. You need to put your thoughts down. You need to be able to document your thoughts. Whatever thing you're going to do, your forecast, anything, your marketing plan, your business plan is going to contain your operational plan. This is how I intend to operate. I want to open from Monday to Sunday. I want to open from Monday to Friday. The reason why I want to open from Monday to Sunday is because my competitors open from Monday to Friday. So I want to have a competitive advantage by opening all day long. So do I want to offer a 24-hour service as a healthcare facility? Yes, because my competitors in that environment do not operate a 24-hour service. So this is the stage whereby you have a business plan, you have a feasibility study, and you put all your thoughts together. So that is what you should focus on during this stage, to have a business plan so that you are not getting to the growth phase and you are now looking for business plan. Because by the time you are even looking for funding, most people that want to give you funding are going to request for your business plan. So it's not going to be possible for you to even move to the next stage if you don't have a detailed business plan. So as we said again, you need to have feasibility studies. Then again, sustainable, no, can we go back? I'm not done with that slide yet. Okay, conceptualization. So as I said, now you reach out to investors and you consider your market fit. Reach out to investors because you are going to need funding for the next phase. This is conceptualization. So you need to look for investors. Or how do you get for funding? What is the source of your funding? We're going to talk about it in the next phase, but you need to begin to reach out to investors and consider your fit in the market. So this takes us to the startup phase. This is the second phase beyond the ideation phase or the conceptualization phase. At this stage, you need funding. You can't start up a business without funding. The most important thing in a business at this phase is funding. Without funding, your idea cannot even become, cannot become implemented, cannot be executionable, cannot come to life without funding. This is the reason why some people say, so you need funding, which may come. How can sources of funding come to your business? It can come from investors. It can come from the bank, where you're going to get a loan and you pay back. It can come from families. It can come from friends or yourself. This is not where we're going to talk about the advantage of each one of them. But bottom line is that you also have to look at the market environment to know what you're going to go for. Going for loans at this time may not be the best idea for anybody because the interest rate on loans and money from banks is something else, so that is very key for us to understand. So when you're starting a business, source of funding, investors, the banks, families and friends, yourself. This is the reason why you also begin to save money aside so that you can, kickstart your business. What's the goal? What's the goal at this period? Make your business operational. That's your goal. You just want to get your idea onto track. You want to be able to start up your business. That is your goal. This thing that is on paper, I want to be able to make it work. That is the goal. Then also, I want to make it sustainable with potential for profitability. Get what I say there? I say with potential for profitability. I'm not saying that you are making profits. I can tell you, I can give you practical examples. It's not easy for business to begin to make profit like that. It's not easy. When I say profit, I'm talking about, you need to break even first, from all the investment and things like that, and you need to be able to make that's profit. Profitability is different from profit making. Talking to Dr. Awoshika, one of the founders of THT, Total Health Trust, one of the foremost HMOs in Nigeria, he told me that, it took them the first 7 years before they make a single naira as profit margin. It took them 7 years to get to that stage. So, and every stage of your life and business life cycle, it also varies. Someone can spend 2 years in a particular phase, while another place spends 7 years. And this is the reason why we are also talking about how to navigate them. so that as much as possible, you want to be able to move from one stage successfully into the next stage. You know, you want to be able to move from one phase into the next one successfully, and you don't remain redundant in a particular phase. So those are the things. What's the goal? Make your business operational, get your business from paper, get it onto the field. Sustainable with potential profitability. Now, 42% of startups, fail due to a lack of demand for their products, or services. I talked about this earlier. I said in the ideation phase, I said you need to ensure there's demand for your services or for your products. Almost half of every business during the startup phase are going to die because there's not enough demand for their service or product. What it also means is that they probably did not do a good enough feasibility during the beginning. Feasibility to really see if it's going to work or not. They will have tested the waters. So these are some of the challenges that people face, and you need to recognize that so that you don't, fall into the same trap. Now, 15.8%, almost 20% of businesses move from the startup to the growth phase each year. That means that less than 1 out of every 5, let's just say 1 out of every 5, are going to move from the startup phase into the growth phase. The growth phase is where you're going to really enjoy your business. Yes, only 1 out of 5 businesses are going to move into that every year. What it means is that all other businesses are stuck in the startup phase. They are not able to go beyond that. It's difficult for them. So you need to be able to understand the challenges and how well to be able to navigate this. So this is the period of testing. This is a period. So don't be afraid to fail at this phase because, failure is one of the ways that people learn better. This is a period of testing. You test. If you fail, you try again. So don't be afraid of that. At this stage, you need a lot of resourcefulness and adaptability. At this phase, you need a lot of resourcefulness. You need to be resourceful, make things happen, make things work. Think about how to, there'll be a lot of problems. There'll be a lot of issues. You have to be resourceful enough to sort out those problems. At this stage, you're not going to be as strategic as operational. At this stage, you're going to be operational. You are rolling off your sleeves, to get things done. Because at this stage also, you don't have too many staff. If you have too many staff, you're going to run out of cash flow. We're going to talk about cash flow later. So what's your focus? Your focus during this phase, during the startup phase is what? Establish a business structure. You need to have a business structure in place, a proper organogram, a proper business structure, how things should go. This is how my finances should be. This is how my operational team should be. This is how my governance should be at the top. This is my human resource practices. This is how I do my procurement. So you put all that in place so that you have something rigid, something strong, and you have a solid foundation. And at the same time, cash flow sustainability. The most important thing in any business, is cash flow. We're going to talk about that later. But more important is during the startup phase. Your cash flow is extremely very important during this cash up phase, during the startup phase. Cash flow. Because as I said, you might not be making profits, but you must have your cash flow intact. You must have your cash flow intact. That is to say, you must also be careful. Some of the problem at this phase is that, some businesses are giving too much credit. You need to keep your eyes on that. You are giving too much credit. So when a business is just about starting, you must be able to have a balance, the right balance between getting your cash in and also getting credit. If you give too much credit, you don't have cash flow. And once you don't have cash flow, the business dies. It's simple as that. Tenacity. You need to be tenacious. So the tenacity to overcome myriad of challenges. As I said, this is a stage you're going to have a lot of challenges, and be tenacious to overcome those challenges. Yeah. Yes, this takes us into the growth phase. After the startup phase is the growth phase. So during the growth phase, fantastic. Things are going well the way you want it. This is the period where you have the highest amount of spike in revenue. Your business is doing well, your customer base is growing, your cash flow is strong, and your profits are coming in during the growth phase. But despite all these goodies, it comes with its own challenges also. 30% of businesses, move from growth to maturity each year. Only 30% will move from growth to maturity. So what is the goal? Despite you having a lot of customer base, despite you having strong cash flows, despite you having profits, what should be the goal at this time? You want to maximize your profits. You want to maximize your profits. And your customer base. And also you want to have a solid corporate and team structure. You know, you want to maximize your customer, you want to maximize your profit. You know, as you're making your profit, maximize it, get enough and make it more, you know, get the best out of it. To get the best out of it, you know, because you need to prepare for the next phase. So what are the challenges you will expect during this time? Because there will be new customers, there will also be new demands. Because there will be new customers, there will be new demands. So you need to be able to, you know, meet up with the demands of people. You know, how do I meet up with the new demands? Those are going to be your challenges. How do you meet so that your service excellence is not affected? Because if it is affected, your business may begin to nosedive and competitors come in at that time. And don't forget also, this is the phase where competitors join you because they can see that the business is doing well. Everybody can see the goodness there. So new competitors come in. As they are coming in, you must also be able to find a way. You want to be able to find a way to overperform the competition. So overperforming the competition is key at this stage. There is also a need to expand. Those are the challenges you're going to be facing. So what do you focus on as a business owner, as a leader? What do you focus on? You want to build and strengthen your team because you're getting people to join you at that time. So you want to build and strengthen the team. You know, you also want to improve customer relationships. As I told you earlier, don't forget, you must ensure your service excellence is good. If you don't improve your customer relationships, those customers that you think that you are building, they begin to go. They begin to fizzle out. And at the same time, you are planning for further investment in the business because you're going to expand. So you start from a branch, you need to have more branches to meet up with the new customer. So you need to plan for that. So those profit that you are maximizing, you need to look for ways to begin to plow them back into the business to expand them. Only 30% of businesses will move from this phase into the next phase, which is maturity. So now we are at the maturity phase. During the maturity phase, if you look at the graph of the business life cycle, is like a plateau, is a flat phase. During this phase, your profit is stable. You know, you are not making like 20%, 25%, 30%, 40% growing like that, like in the growth phase. But you are making good profits. You know, you make 10% year on year, 10%, 8%, 12%. You are stable in that region. Your business is more predictable. You already know because you have customer base. Your customers already know you because of your brand recognition. And I can tell you a lot of businesses that have been at this phase include the likes of Lagoon Hospital. Lagoon Hospital has been able to build a brand recognition that people know, you know. So at this phase, they are the maturity phase. You know, they were, because I'll still talk about that later. At some point, they were at the maturity phase for a very long time. The maturity phase is where a lot of business stay for a long time. Some people may even almost be there forever until they begin to nosedive and they decline, you know. But the good ones, they will find a way to invent themselves and, you know, they never die. So we'll still talk about other businesses that are there. Part-Care Laboratories, for some of us that know it, Part-Care Laboratories is no longer Part-Care. You know, I was business manager for Part-Care for some years. That was about 12, 14 years ago, you know. At that time, it was Part-Care Laboratories, but now it's SynLab. It's called SynLab, you know, and there's a reason for the change in name. It's part of the growth phase. Part-Care for a very long time was in the maturity phase, but it's gone beyond that right now. So not all business will be successful enough to be able to turn maturity into something else. You know, when you're at the maturity phase, you have two directions to go. It's either you begin to decline or you move into what we call the transition or the innovative phase. That's where we come to innovation, you know, reinventing your business, reinventing yourself. So, but before we get there, let's talk about what should be your goal during this period. You know, what should be your goal? Maximizing profits, and you know, maximizing profit should be your goal. You know, you're making the profit. How do you maximize the profits? And also decide on the future of the business. This is critical, and this is the reason why some businesses have not been able to do this successfully. Another example is the Eco Hospital. You know, the Eco Hospital right now, we all know the Eco Hospital, one of the top hospitals, you know, some years back, you know, but, you know, Eco Hospital has been at the maturity phase for a very long time. And, you know, what I can see there is that they've not been able to fully, you know, take the right decision to know where they want to go. And this may actually lead some companies to begin to decline. So, but for organizations that are able to assess the environment very well, they take a decision. So they decide on the future of the business. Once they take a decision, they look at it and say, okay, what should I do? Should I, plan my exit? By planning the exit, they're planning to sell the business, to cash out from the business, and I'll tell you, businesses have cashed out. There are businesses that have been sold for $1 million here. And an example is Arjoland. I think if I'm not wrong, Arjoland was $1 million or something like that. Some of these they are not so open information. But Arjoland has been bought into by another group of people, and that is the business owner cashing out. You talked about the exit strategy, right? If you look at it, some years ago, Arjola was the way it is, even the structure. But some years ago, they got new investors. The business owner sold the business. They've done a lot of facelift and things like that. So that is someone thinking about his exit strategy. So that should be your focus during the maturity phase. Number one, are there still opportunities for me to expand, for me to reinvent my business, and make it like something like Walt Disney? Walt Disney in the US is a business that has existed for over 100 years. Over 100 years. What it means is that this business does not, as it gets into the maturity phase, it reinvents itself, it goes into the innovative phase, and it reinvigorates itself, and it's making more money again. It's starting all over again. But some people will tell themselves that, okay, the opportunity is not so ideal outside and things like that. Let me find the right exit, and they exit, they sell the business, which is still a very good idea. And some people fail to do this successfully, and they go to the next phase, which is for them to decline. And that is not good enough, So you must understand every stage of the business life cycle and where you are in the phase, and how you navigate each of these successfully to make your business successful. Can I have a second, please? Just a second so we can continue with it. A second, please.
While we're waiting for Dr. Oyele, I'd like for us to please note all your questions down. I mean, you have a business consultant here today, so let's note our questions down. Challenges you're facing that you'd want him to help you with. You can just note all of your questions down so that after this session, we can have him attend to all our questions. Please just note them down. You can put them in the chat box. Thank you.
Okay, I'm back. Thank you. Okay. Can we make it bigger, please? Wider, if possible. Okay, sorry for that break. So from the maturity phase, basically it leads us, we've talked about what the goal should be. Maximizing profits, deciding on the future of the business, because we tell you that, the maturity phase is the plateau phase. Things are stable, things are predictable, and things like that. And there's only one or two ways to go. It's either the business nosedives or you find a way to reinvent the business. So you are left with making, tough decisions among several options. So those are the challenges. You are actually weighing your options. Those are the challenges you're facing at that time. And what should your focus be? Assess new opportunities for expansion or finding, an exit strategy, so that you can do this appropriately. Next slide. So we move into the innovative phase. Innovative phase, this is a phase whereby, the goal is to see, as we said, test feasibilities to be sure that the demand for your service or product is there. And also What are the challenges? Because there will be new customers also during the innovative phase, there would also be new demands, so all those are there. So innovation is crucial for continued success in any business. For you to have sustainable success, innovation is very key to this. I'll talk about the case study of the Walt Disney business later on, which is over 100-year-old business. And the reason why they've been able to stand the test of time is because they've been very innovative, and they've been one of the most innovative companies in the world. Most organizations that have been able to stand the test of time today have only been able to achieve that because of innovation. Next slide. So we talk about innovation, invention, and improvement. We need to make the disparity between these three because they seem very close, but they are a bit different. Innovation refers to the act or process of introducing any existing idea, device, or method that's new to the organization. So what I'm trying to say here is that innovation is not all about creating a new thing. No, innovation is not about you finding a new drug, a new tetracycline that never existed. That is not exactly innovation. That is invention. You might invent a new drug. You can invent a new thing. But innovation, if something is being done in the United States of America and is successful, and you adopt it your own way and adapt it to your system locally in Nigeria, that is an innovation. In that environment, that's an innovation. So those are some of the things. You are able to adopt and adapt what is successful in other environments to your own immediate and local environment. That's innovation. Invention, on the other hand, focuses more on the creation of a product that's never been seen before. An improvement, it alludes to the process of taking an existing idea and improving it. You take an existing idea and you improve it. It could be the process you are improving. It could be process improvement so that it becomes faster, so that it becomes easier to use, so that it becomes more reliable or even more efficient. That is improvement. I'm going to talk about some organizations that failed to innovate or adapt their system to the market's trends and how this has affected them, how they fizzled out along the way. If we all remember Kodak, I don't know for those that remember Kodak. Kodak was one of the, some of the biggest companies, several years ago. They had this Kodak photography. But what happened to them? They failed to be innovative. They failed to listen to the customer. They failed to watch the market trend. And over time, even new players, younger companies that were able to be innovative were able to outperform them. That's all the story of Kodak. And for some of us that also, I'm sure people know about Nokia even more than Kodak. Nokia, who uses the Nokia phone right now? I don't know. It's tough to find many people using a Nokia phone. It's tough. But Nokia was the #1 company, some years ago when I was in the university. Nokia was when phone was just coming out, my medical school. Nokia was the #1. So if you're going to have any phone, it's got to be a Nokia, and we had the 3310, which is known to be one of the most rugged phones of all time. Then, that was Nokia, so those are the things. But Nokia is virtually no more. Why? Because Nokia was not innovative enough. By the time Apple and Samsung were coming into the frame, what happened? Nokia was not adopting new technologies. Nokia was not, when Apple and Samsung were coming with the touchscreen phones or the flip phones, Nokia failed to do that. And that was what the market trend was telling them, So those are some of the issues, So even though Nokia had products in the market, but their product did not satisfy what the customer wants. So it's important for you as a business owner to always watch your environment, your business landscape, your market landscape, and your market trends for you to be able to see how you adapt your business, how you become innovative, And at the same time, if we come to our local environment, I'm going to mention the Julie Pharmacy. For some people that know Julie Pharmacy, I think Julie Pharmacy still exists. It's in Ikeja, Underbridge, that area, but probably just one branch. But this used to be a very big pharmacy back in the days. But the likes of Health Plus have taken over, having the largest pharmaceutical chain in Nigeria, over 40 branches, 50 and the rest of them, But, so that is how competition takes over, And if you are not innovative, you are not able to compete well. The same thing with Bolucare Pharmacy. Those are pharmacies that fail to, fail to be innovative. And a core hospital is falling into this also. They need to be innovative for them to compete with other ones. Back in the days, the likes of what's his name? Ikesho, that was Nigeria's goalkeeper, was treated in a core hospital. Most, some presidents of the country, people from West African nations were coming to a core hospital for treatment. That was back in the days as the first, major group practice in Nigeria. But, a core hospital that's going to the maturity phase, I believe they've not been able to manage this very well, probably because of some issues, some things are in the media, some board issues, so that's not allowing for them to be able to set a direction for themselves. Are we going to exit this business and cash out? The way the likes of Elebute cashed out on Lagoon Hospital. Go and read it up. Lagoon Hospital has been sold and the family has cashed out. Aljola has been sold and the family is cashed out. And despite that, the business to succeed beyond them. Aljola is succeeding, with very good ambience right now. Lagoon Hospital is succeeding because they've been able to manage that phase very well. The same thing goes with Dr. Pamela Ajayi, the founder of PathCare, which is now called Sinlab. They've been able to manage the exit strategy very well, cashed out, sell it out to some other people that have continued the business, because it gets to a phase, you need new blood to continue with some of these things. And that is why you need to be able to manage the innovative phase very well. The maturity phase, the phase between maturity and innovative phase. You need to marry, that's a very, very key phase. It's like you are going back to the beginning, you need to manage that very well. So those are local examples for us to pick from with regards to innovation. Yes, finally, we go to the declining phase. After a period of stability, as I told you, the maturity phase is the stable phase. After the maturity, there's no way, eventually it's going to happen sometime. It just depends on how you are able to manage it well. So after a period of stability and success, a business may start to decline in revenue. A business may start to decline in revenue. Revenue may start to come down. Don't forget, more competition may come in. A lot of things are happening in. Profit begin to come down. Internal structure or reputation may also begin to change. Think about it. There are so many global businesses that, back in the days, they are not at that level again. But we're also going to make example of some other organizations that have been able to stand the test of time. The only reason is because they've been fantastically innovative. And that's it. So what are the other signs? Other signs include leaders not being as invested in the business again. It gets to a time, burnout sets in. The leader is not as invested in the business again. Those are the other signs of the declining phase. So he's tired. This is also the phase where you begin to build new leaders that can take over from you. So this is where you talk about the succession planning, so that your business can outlive you and things like that. So what is the goal at this phase? Reinvent your business is your goal. Once, even before you get to the declining phase, you have to think of reinventing your business. You don't even get there. You reinvent your business by innovating and also reinvesting or cashing out. Think about this very well. Reinvent your business by innovating and reinvesting or cashing out. That's what you do. That should be your goal. What are the challenges? You're faced with options of whether to invest further. You're faced with that option, or expand the business or exit the business. Those are the challenges you're thinking about. What should be your focus? Assemble a team. Assemble a team of experts who are, experts in mergers and acquisition, M&A, people that can actually tell you that, okay, this is how we do it. Let's see how we can go into an acquisition. We acquire other businesses. By acquiring other businesses that we don't have the skill or we don't have the strength, we are able to, reinvigorate our own business, which is what Disney Corporation has been able to do well. For those of us that know a little bit about Disney, I've talked about Disney. First of all, Disney is over 100 years. What that means is that most of the other businesses I've told you about, Disney existed before then. When I was 5-year-old, when I was 10 years old, I was watching, cartoons, on black and white TV. And we know some of those things. So those are some of the things, so that's Disney for you. And the reason why they've been able to achieve this, we'll talk about the tools they use and also the strategy much later on. So assemble a team who are experts in mergers and acquisition. Speak with your marketing guys and your sales team about reinvesting in the business. Okay, if you are going to consider the option of reinvesting in the business, talk to the guys on the field. Is there still demand for our business, or what should we do? And they will advise you. And this is how you can navigate the declining phase. So now, having spoken about all the various stages of growth and how to navigate them and also the challenges you'll be facing, I'm going to take you through certain general strategies to navigate growth. General strategies beyond, beyond what we just spoke about. These are general strategies right now. These are not specifics with every stage we talk about. Number one, you set a clear framework. You need to be able to set, at the beginning, set a clear framework or a set of rules. Now let me tell you, at the beginning of our presentation, you could see Lillian, the first thing she did was talk about housekeeping rules. That's what you do if you want to be successful. If you want to be able to manage your growth very well, growing up is not, they said, is not beans. They even say adulthood is scam. You understand? What's the reason? Why is the reason? Because you're going to be left by yourself alone and you need to be able to tackle things on your own. So, because you're going to be facing your challenges yourself, because growing up comes with challenges. That's usually you say adulthood is scam, So you need to be able to set up a clear framework, set up a clear rules and put systems in place. Know what you want to do and what you don't want to do. So defining how much money can be spent on splurges and how much you will be reinvested into the business for growth to generate more revenue is very important. So you need to be able to make a clear delineation between the business and what you spend on your personal self. The mistake that people make is that, when they are becoming successful, what do? They let that take over. They become emotional and they want to throw parties and spend a lot on themselves. I think this needs to be addressed. You need to understand. So understand from the beginning what you can spend on yourself to just marry and what needs to be invested into the business. You can't mix business with pleasure. There have been people that have done that and they failed along the line. I'm going to talk about the story of HITV or ITV for some of us that remember. When MultiChoice was taking over the industry, the cable TV industry in Nigeria, a local competitor came along, which was ITV, and everybody was happy that a local organization was going to give DSTV run for their money. But what happened? The local organization, after 1 year or so, failed. Why did they fail? Go into the history, go and read about it. The bosses and the big boys and the CEOs and things, they were throwing parties when they were getting out of the startup phase into the growth phase, because they were throwing parties and buying champagne of 5 million naira, buying Range Rovers for people and things like that. So those are things that, and what happened eventually? They could not pay salary. They didn't have enough cash flow for them to be able to support what was being done. So you need to be, you need to have systems in place for you to do things appropriately. Number two, you need to have a disciplined approach to growth and wealth accumulation. You need to be disciplined. What I just talked about also goes into discipline. You need to have a disciplined approach. Trying to mirror the crowd or a friend's investment strategies might not necessarily yield the desired result. Why? Because your situations are different. Your risk appetite, your risk tolerance is different from the next person. So you cannot copy. My friend set up something, I want to set up something and things like that. No, you can learn from people. That's one of the best way to learn. I tell you, look at people, look at what is happening and learn from it. But you need to test it. You need to test it, the feasibilities, as I said earlier. So one of the best examples of a disciplined approach to success is Warren Buffett. For some of us that have read the story, Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world, is very practical demonstration of a disciplined approach to growth. You can steadily grow your asset base if you remain and consistently do so when taking business and personal decision. When you're taking personal decision, business decision, if you do this with a disciplined approach, you can consistently and sustainably grow your asset base. Watch your cash flows. That's number three. You need to watch your cash flows. Now, cash flow is it. Cash flow is the lifeblood of any business. Without cash flow, even when you make revenue, there's also a saying that says, when you make revenue, when you make profit, all these are good. But without cash flow, the business is bound to fail. So making revenue is different from profits. I'm sure we know that. Making revenue, making 100 million naira and things like that, that could be your revenue. You need to look at your profits margin. Am I making enough beyond my expenses? That's your profit. Even when you are making enough beyond your expenses, what's your cash flow? How much of this is taken over by debts? How much of this is in credit and is not in real financial terms of cash? So cash flow is key. A business that does not have cash flow fails to succeed. So you need to keep an eye on your cash flow. When you're experiencing growth, you will have some liquidity. You know, you're going to have liquidity. As I told you, you're experiencing growth, there will be revenue, there will be liquidity, you're having money and things like that, which has to be well balanced. So you need to find a way to balance your liquidity and things. If not, mistakes can be very costly, you know. So as we said, meticulous planning, growth should not happen by accident. So meticulous planning, growth should not happen by accident. To achieve effective growth, you need to have a strategic approach that encompasses all these things we talked about: informed decision-making, comprehensive understanding of the market landscape, and also meticulous planning. Next slide. Number 4, embrace change. The only constant is what? Is change. Change is going to keep happening. Even growth itself is a form of change, because you grow into a new environment. Your body changes, anything changes, your environment changes. So you need to find ways to embrace change. You know, major disruptions usually bring with it growth opportunities. You know, don't see change as something negative. You know, find ways, see the opportunity that exists in those changes. You know, a lot of people are afraid of disruptive technologies, which is what is happening right now. There are a lot of technologies that are causing disruption. When we say disruption, it changes the landscape of everything entirely. It makes some people redundant. It makes some things non-functional, you know. So when major disruptions happen, it brings about growth opportunities. So look at it. For example, let me give an example. During the COVID era, there was disruption in the sense that a whole lot of things changed. The way we see the world entirely changed. But during that period, you know, the highest number of billionaires that have been created the world over happened during the COVID era. Let me say it again. The highest number of billionaires created in a year happened during the COVID era. Almost 2 billionaires were being created every single day during the COVID era. So, you know, you can see, look at the opportunity. Even in Nigeria, you know, I can tell you, I'm into the laboratory industry, and I know that a lot of molecular laboratory came on during the COVID era. We never really had laboratories, so molecular laboratories in Nigeria before the COVID era. But with COVID, a lot of them came on. So those were potential opportunities and things like that. Okay, so leaders who are able to adapt, who are adaptive and harness changes as catalysts for growth, and are able to turn potential pitfalls into platforms for growth. You know, you need to be able to identify new opportunities, possibilities, and capitalize on emerging trends. You need to also be able to follow the market trends and capitalize on emerging trends. This is important. Number 5, strong leadership. Strong leadership direction for team steering. For all this to happen, you need to have a strong leadership. You need to have strong leaders. Only strong leaders are able to navigate their team into the next phase. You know, awareness. You know, you need to be aware of your micro environment where you are operating. You need to be very aware of it, and also global influences on your business. What are things happening globally right now? People are talking about renewable energy. People are talking about climate change and things like that. See how your business is doing in that perspective and things like that, because all this might eventually affect whatever you do. What are the national influences on your business? You need to look at what's happening in our national environment right now. Economic instability, price instability, and the rest of them. How do this affect our business in terms of pricing? Prices are not stable any longer. So if you are going to be importing things, you know, you need to take note of this, or else you make mistakes. You know, one useful tool to be able to, you know, to manage your awareness very well is what we call the pestle analysis. You know, there's a tool called the pestle analysis. You know, pestle analysis refers to your political environment. You know, just a way to be aware of your environment, your political environment. How does it affect your business? How your awareness of your environment, you know, economic environment. The E is the economic environment, you know, that's the E. The S is your social environment. The T is your technological environment. You know, the other E talks about your environment as an environment, physical and things like that. And finally, your legal environment. How does this affect your business? All these have impact, you know, on a macro level on your business. So you must keep an eye on them. Part of the technological, you know, influences that we need to look at is what is artificial intelligence in healthcare, not just in healthcare, the world over. Artificial intelligence is going to shape the world in 2024 and beyond. Artificial intelligence, telemedicine, these are the trends that we need to look out for. You know, artificial intelligence is going to change the world from beyond. Already, Google already plans to lay off 30,000 employees because of artificial intelligence. And it's not because these employees are not doing fantastic job. Actually, majority of the employees are going to be laid off. They are from the best performing departments in Google. So it's not a matter of underperformance. It's just because there's a destruction caused by artificial intelligence. They feel that whatever they are doing can be done better by artificial intelligence, and they're going to lay them off. And they started already in January. Over 1,000 employees have been laid off. IBM also plans to follow suit. So that is how technology can impact, whatever that happens in your business. So build a strong team. As we said, you can't do it alone. So you have to look for the right people that will, a team that complements the leader's strength. Whatever your strength is, look for people that can add to it, complement your strength, and look for people that can compensate for your weakness. Everybody has their own weaknesses. So what is it that you don't know how to do well? Look for people that have this and they can actually compensate for that. That is how to build a strong team. Capacity building, you have to build capacity and you have to develop capacity, because one of the ways to be efficient and effective is by delegation. Because you can't do it. Imagine Dangote controlling a $10 billion, net worth. How do you think he's able to do it? And he just has one head, So he's been able to master delegation, resourcefulness, a lot of what we're talking about, So those are the things. So you need to be able to, a good leader must be very good at delegating, must be very good at training, developing capacities and things like that, and getting access to capital. That is what those people have been able to do. The wealthy people have access to capital. They've been able to know how to get resources, to be able to, to use it to their advantage and things like that. For growth to happen, capital is needed for expansion and also for transformation. Ability to market your product. You cannot achieve any success if you don't know how to sell your product. That's it. Right now, you need to get your products to the customer. You no longer wait for customers to come and meet you like we were doing back in the day. So you have to get your product to your customer. Yes. So now let's begin to look at some of the case studies and best practices in corporate and healthcare innovation. Now, number one, we look at the corporate innovation, just a few of them. We all know about the Uber and Lyft. This has been able to alter the taxi and car service model to peer-to-peer and by digitizing it. So they've been able to what? Just all they did is that they connect demand with supply. That's all. They don't have their own vehicles. They just create a platform to connect demand with supply. And that's what business is about. Simple. And they are doing very well. Today, Uber is over $130 billion business. Over $130 billion in a matter of few years. So that's it. The same model is used by Airbnb. Airbnb does not own any accommodation, but they've been successful at creating a platform, using technology to their advantage and connecting the people that are seeking for rooms and people that are ready to sell, to rent out their own rooms. So that is what they've been able to do. So just think about the idea, look at what the environment and, So finally, we're talking about Walt Disney right now. As I said earlier, recognized as one of the most innovative companies, longevity of over 100 years. What are the tools Walt Disney used to be successful? Or else it should have fizzled down the line. So they've been able to diversify their business. Disney has been able to diversify their business. They started with cartoon. They moved on into creating animated cartoons, beyond that also, they also applied CGI, they were the first to apply CGI. For those that watched the Lion King movie at that time, some years ago, they will make up the Lion King movie from just normal cartoon to almost real life. So that is what they've been able to do. That's part of innovation. They are constantly taking technological leadership. They are the first. And if you also watch the Avatar movie was, was the most successful movie by number of watches, by capitalization. They generated several billions of dollars, that's the Avatar movie. Avatar movie was also by Disney, but not directly by Disney, they acquired it. That's what we call strategic acquisition. So through things like that, they're acquiring other business to become relevant. And also through strategic collaboration. They've been able to do that with Marvel also. If for those that know Marvel, the Marvel comic, the Marvel movie, they are now part of the Disney family. You know, what they did was that they will take up business that are doing well, they make it their own. So that is how Disney has been able to remain on top of what they are doing for over 100 years, and they gain relevance through strategic acquisition, through strategic collaboration with Marvel, Lucasfilm, and things like that. And let me quickly talk about a new movie coming out, Iwaju. I think it's coming out February 28th. It's not even, February 28th. Yeah, some days ago it came out. Yes. You know, Iwaju, meaning the future, is the first movie that will be done through strategic collaboration with anybody by Walt Disney. And it was done in collaboration with an African, with a Nigerian company. You know, I think Google it, watch the movie. You know, you can't see it in Nigeria because it's running on Disney, the Disney platform in America. Disney platform is not yet in Nigeria, so you can't watch it here. But if you're America, you can watch it there and things like that. I remember just in December, I took my family to the Disney Wonderland and things like that. Part of what they've been able to do also is that they've been able to create some of these things that people know when they were a child, their heroes, they've been able to bring them to life in the Disney Wonderland. So, you know, imagine children, taking your children there and they see their heroes of yesteryears in real life action. So everybody wants to come there. And on a daily basis, the number of people that comes to Disney Wonderland, I can't remember the figures right now, but it's several thousands. And what they generate on a year-on-year basis, you know, that is diversification right now. You know, they've been able to also create another line of business beyond just, you know, creating cartoons, because they've been able to turn their cartoons into real things. So when people go there, they see Captain Marvel, almost a relief of Captain Marvel. They see Iron Man, a remake of Iron Man and things like that. So that is fantastic. So this is how such businesses have been able to stand the test of time. So let's come to healthcare innovation. Now, as much as innovation is taking over the space in corporate world, healthcare has not seen as much innovation. Yeah, we have innovation in healthcare, a whole lot of them, and we're going to talk about it. But what I mean is that because the healthcare industry is very regulated, this limits how we can quickly adapt to innovation. Yeah, it's very regulated. You know, if you go to America right now, the FDA is there. Before anything can be released, before anything approval, you know, for a drug to even come out, you spend a lot of money. So cost is another factor. I worked in Novartis Pharmaceutical, a Swiss company, whereby we make drugs and things like that. When you go, there are about 4 stages of creating a new drug. You start with the first phase, second phase, the clinical trials, and before it eventually gets to markets, you know, that's the last phase. When we say that's the phase 4, that's the market, post-trial phase and things like that. Before all that, it can take you 10, 15, 20 years for a drug. You know, that's with so much investment so these are the reasons why innovation is not like, with the ways in the corporate world, and some of the healthcare innovations locally in our environment is particle laboratories. Particle laboratory is the first ISO accredited laboratory in the whole of West Africa. What they've been able to do is that they've been able to standardize their operational processes to ensure that the quality of things that happens there is similar to what you see abroad. That is innovation on its own. ISO, International Standard Organization, they brought it to Nigeria. They thought that is innovation. And the same thing goes with Lagoon Hospital. Lagoon Hospital is the first and still, I think the only JCI accredited. JCI, that is the Joint Commission International, accreditation, to ensure that their processes are qualitative. But now there are other accrediting bodies that grants accreditation for quality. We have Safe Care, we have other ones. But bottom line was that some people were fast to jump onto that bus. And those are some of those organizations. So those are local innovation. And this is the reason why some of these organizations, you can see them, they still stand the test of time. That diagram over there talks about, business innovation, the various things that are involved in business innovation, creativity, technological adaptation, collaboration, and the rest of them. Yes, case studies and best practices in corporate and healthcare innovation continue. Number one, I'll talk about a few healthcare innovation. Number one, I'll talk about, artificial intelligence. Now, people now use robots to actually gain control and precision over their surgeries. So people use artificial intelligence we talked about earlier. They now use that to create robots that are able to perform some minimally invasive surgeries better. So that is people adapting innovative, thinking to what they are doing. So this helps them to be able to perform some surgeries better. So that is use of artificial intelligence in healthcare. Beyond that also, there's something we call, there's an Embrace wristwatch or wristband. It's not actually a watch, it's a wristband. And with that, it helps to monitor emergencies like epilepsy better, medical emergencies. So for people that have medical emergencies, imagine somebody with epilepsy being alone in the room and suffering an attack. What happens? Such a person can die if not well attended to. So what happens is that that wristband monitors a lot of things in his body and things like that, including pulse rates and other things, and sends signals to someone's phone that is close around. And such people can quickly come to his aid. And apart from that, that wristband can also quickly alert the person so he can quickly sit down rather than falling down. So these are some of the technological innovation that's seen in healthcare, and for things like this, whoever is able to adapt to this fast, imagine somebody bringing this to this part of Nigeria and things like that. So that is still an innovation in Nigeria, despite the fact that it existed in other parts of the world before now. The use of drones for medical supplies, this was also used during the war between between Israel and Palestine. At some point when people wanted to give aid to some people, they had to use drones to supply those things. Rather than sending people directly into the war front to go and do some things, people, the Red Cross and other people like that, why not use drones? This saves lives, and this also saves mobility. Another thing is the use of, what's it called? The use of immersion technology. So to help patients with stroke to recover. So they help in the recovery phase of people with medical emergencies like stroke. They help them recover because they immerse them in it could be a futuristic environment or a real life environment that they know. All this help them to recover. And these are examples of healthcare innovation and how trends in healthcare can help change things. Finally, we talk about some case studies and, in our own environment here. I talk about the rise and fall of ITV. I've talked about earlier, that the CEO, the boss, and other people, the founders, the moment they were experiencing some growth, immediately they went on splurges, buying champagne of 5 million naira for birthday bash, Range Rovers. Nobody said you shouldn't spend on yourself, but you need to be disciplined. Apart from being disciplined, you need to also be able to have rules, that you work with, and things like that, and separate personal things from business. And, and I can tell you, why do you think you have a lot of South African companies in Nigeria? I've worked for a lot of South African companies. Particle Laboratory was initially a South African company. I worked with them. Lancet Laboratories, I was part of the team that brought it into Nigeria. These are companies that they delay gratification. And that's some of the things that we need to learn in this part of the world, what we call delayed gratification. Just like that tells us to the story of the graduating doctor. I'm a doctor and I know that any doctor graduating, I don't know about right now, but when we're graduating then and before then, once you're graduating as a doctor, the next thing is to go and buy a car, which may not be the best of ways. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy a car, do all sorts of what you want to do, but delayed gratification can help you in achieving a lot of things, because what you are earning at that time is not all. I remember when I was growing up after my school, the first thing I did beyond I had a car personally, but I didn't use my money to buy the car. But bottom line was that, I was focusing on doing my master's. And every income I heard, despite the fact that I never received a dime from my house job. The first money, I never received a dime from it because I worked in one of the best places that pays the highest, the military hospital. Back in those days, if you work in military hospitals, you're earning the highest in Nigeria. But we were not paid. We were supernumeraries. We were not paid. We were supposed to be paid, but one way or the other, we were not paid. So despite that fact, I was still able to finance my master's abroad by myself. You can imagine the kind of delayed gratification that went into that. And I can tell you right now, it's one of the best decisions I made as a person, as a doctor. So that is what delayed gratification can do for you. And I think a lot of people need to imbibe that kind of culture. You can enjoy things, you can splurge, you can do things, but you must be disciplined. You must be able to, work with certain rules and processes. Now, the Nigerian growth conundrum. Why is it that Nigeria is having challenges? Part of the problem with growth in Nigeria is that we have placed people less deserving over people deserving or over people with merits. And part of the problem also is that Nigeria failed to reinvest and use their funds well. When we are having a lot of income and things like that during the oil boom, what happened? We're not saving enough, we're not investing in the right places, we're not doing the right things. You know, imagine somebody fighting a war, Ukraine fighting a war, still being able to send things to Nigeria. You know, so those are some of the issues. So that's part of what we're talking about. So finally, Netflix streaming platform and DSTV cable. Today, Netflix is a $260 billion company. You know, Netflix started some years back. They created a platform whereby people can be streaming movies. Today, they've taken over. You know, cable TV, DSTV, people are not watching the game. But the problem was that DSTV never changed, never saw that coming. They did not adopt that system early enough. And what happened? DSTV came around, took over. Although recently they introduced their own streaming platform, which is the Showmax, but it was a bit late. So as of today, DSTV is owing over ₦1 trillion in debt to the Nigerian government in taxes. DSTV is posting losses in quarters, recent quarters. That's how much losses they are making, you know, because they fail to navigate the innovative environment well enough, and they were not innovative. So rather than, you know, they should move away from the cable platform and see how they can stream content like the way Netflix and other people were doing, but they were slow to adopt that. So, and that is, those are some, you know, case studies in our local environment with regards to innovation in corporate and also in healthcare. So we're getting closer to the end of our presentation. You know, in conclusion, when you understand that growth is a never-ending journey. So it's a never-ending journey if you plan it very well. That is the truth, you know, and it should be seen as an imperative rather than an objective. So see growth as an imperative rather than an objective. You know, an objective is something you achieve and you stop there. So see growth as an imperative rather than an objective. It should be a never-ending journey, you know. That is how it is for people like, you know, people like Disney, you know, it's a never-ending journey. The man that set up Disney never got to 100 years, you know. Now, people that set up particle laboratories, Lagoon, you know, Elebute is even dead, you know, it's late right now, but the business continues beyond him. So the growth of a business should be seen as a never-ending journey. Then you must understand that you must continuously improve and innovate to achieve sustainable success. At this point, I'm going to say thank you for your time and thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ademolu. I'm certain that we've all benefited from this session. So please let's show our appreciation for Dr. Ademolu in the chat box with a round of applause, thank you messages. I mean, the session is exceptional expertise, you know, and delivery has made this session very, very insightful. So I hope we took notes so that we can retain some valuable information, because I mean, he took us through a lot, from the principles of strategic business development to emerging trends, to know how you can develop and implement effective corporate and business unit strategies, you know, tailored for the healthcare landscape. So I'm sure we'll be able to develop actionable steps, you know, to transform our healthcare organizations and drive, you know, sustainable growth. Just like he said, growth is an imperative and it's a never-ending journey. So thank you so much, Dr. Ademolu. So I'll just transition to the question and answer session. I'd like to invite Sukomi to lead this segment. The business doctor is here to answer all your questions. He's here for free. He's giving you his time. So I hope you take advantage of this. Please, questions, Sukomi. Okay, I'm sorry, Seidu rather.
Oh yeah, thank you so very much, Lillian. Thank you so much, Dr. Oyele, for that wonderful presentation. It was quite very insightful and impressive. Personally for me, I enjoyed every bit of the information. So without wasting much of our time, let's just move on to the question and answer session. So I have a couple of questions when you were making your presentation. So the first one here is that given the challenging statistics on the survival rates of businesses, what actionable strategies do you think is recommendable to ensure not only the sustainability of businesses, but also their continued high performance? Do you grab that, doctor?
Yeah, I do. I do. Should I respond to that now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. If you if you look at my slide very well, that's the reason why I took some of those challenges and strategies in two facets. Number one, I use the business life cycle model, talking about every stage of the life cycle. So what you need to do is that, first of all, identify what stage of the business life cycle is your business or your organization. Is my business right now, for example, one of my businesses is I have a molecular laboratory, which is Allied Rainbow Specialized Laboratories. And I know that this maybe at the present time, our business is in the growth phase right now. We're in the growth phase, the early growth phase. So once I know that I'm in the early growth phase, so we talked about the challenges you expect for any business in the growth phase. So if you look at the slide, if you can go to the slide, we can look at it now. If you can go there, please, go to growth phase. Let us look at the challenges that you envisage. So those are the things that you envisage. So now, what should we focus on as a business owner or as a leader to manage or to navigate that stage? So let's look at the growth phase. What are the expected challenges? Now, because there will be new customers, I said growth phase, you are having the best time. Your revenue is coming up. As your revenue is coming up, you are going to get new staffs, new employees to manage some things for you because you can't do it all alone. So what you need to do, so you're going to have problems with the employee in terms of you managing, structuring your business very well and things like that. So number two is that there will also be new demands because you are expanding and things like that. There will be new demands. And once there are new demands, if you do not get new people to support those demands, what it means is that your operational service delivery will be affected. So you need to look at operational excellence at that phase too, to ensure that you continue to provide the top-notch service to people. So your focus at this stage is about strengthening your team, to deliver continued service to people. Your focus is also about improving customer relationships. Don't forget also, people are looking at you like, oh, yeah, this business is doing well. People want to come into it. They don't know what you're facing, but they want to come into it because they see that you are doing well. So what happens is that, competition comes in. So this is the phase that you don't want to leave your customers. This is the phase that you want to have strong ties with your customers. So those are ways you navigate, So when you go to my slide, you will see how you navigate every single stage, what you need to focus on, the challenges you expect, what your goals should be. So that's that. And at the same time, I also now talked about general strategies in general that every leader should have or should imbibe in terms of, how to navigate, growth and innovation. Because I can tell you, growth is strategic. There's a strategic approach to growing up. There's a strategic approach to doing things. As a scientific person, there's a strategic approach to many of these things. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so very much, sir. I also have a question here from one of the participants. So can you, in brief, quickly just, specifically to the peculiar issue of health insurance and the business circle in talking about the healthcare landscape in Nigeria?
Sorry, let me get that question again. I know you talked about HMO, health insurance.
Yes, yes.
Then
About the issue of health insurance and how it relates with business circle in healthcare landscape in Nigeria.
Business life cycle. Okay, if I get your question very well, you talked about health insurance. Actually, if we look at health insurance at a macro level, when I say health insurance at a macro level, I'm not talking about each HMO specifically. I'm not talking about THT. I'm not talking about IGEA. I'm not talking about Leadway. I'm talking about the health insurance landscape. Now, the health insurance landscape that was set up some years ago in Nigeria we've not gotten the right, it's not been a fantastic success. I'm sorry to say, it's not been a fantastic success because if you look at it, the healthcare, the HMO integration to our people is just about, I think, less than about 10%, if I'm not wrong. only about 10 to 15% of people have health insurance in Nigeria. So what are we doing? So because the objective of health insurance was to make healthcare accessible to people, to ensure that a whole lot of people have health insurance. What it means that people can get care without necessarily paying for them. So if people have a particular problem, they can go without paying out of pocket, because out of pocket payment is one of the things that limit accessibility to care. So that was the reason why healthcare insurance came into being. So for me, at a macro level, the life cycle for health insurance in Nigeria, I find it hard to say it's in the growth phase. I find it hard to say it's in the growth phase, because we have not even gotten there. If your integration is just about 15%, you've not gotten there. So I'll still be looking at the startup phase, where they need to put the structure in place at the government, at the policy making level, where we need to put the structure in place, where we need to, if we need to even capital, like we did the banking industry, if we need to recapitalize the HMOs and things like that, for them to be stronger and things like that, we may be able to, things like that. So, but coming down at the level, or at the micro level, at the level of each HMO, now, the HMOs, there are HMOs that are doing very, very well. Yes. So, of course, every HMO, specifically have the stage in which they exist. I can tell you that just like Disney, as I told you, HMOs like AXA Mansard have been able to use strategic collaboration, strategic acquisition, strategic alliances to take over many other ones, and have grown very big and are enjoying things. Before Leadway Assurance came into the picture, I think AXA Mansard used to be the leading force. At different times, they were leading force. I can give you the history. Back in the days, when I say back in the days, I'm talking of years and years ago, when HMO started. We're talking of the likes of IGEA and THT in Nigeria. IGEA, THT, those are the dominating forces. They started it. They used their head to weather through a lot of issues, but they got the benefit eventually. So, for example, THT brought in Liberty Health from South Africa. Liberty Health came in, took over THT. The owners of the business, they cashed out. Then now also, I think another investor came in again. They've also taken over Liberty Health. So they are cashing out. People are cashing out. So if you look at it at that level, in terms of the life cycle, they've gone through a lot of business life cycle. They've gone to maturity, they've gone to cashing out. They've started another invention for some of them. While some are not doing very well, that's the reason why I said we need to capitalize, like we did for the bank. Some are not doing very well, they're just there. And some people just want to set up because they know that there's money in HMO. There was money in HMO, there's still money in there for some people. So a lot of people are setting HMO just to make that money. Because they say that every organization needs to have health insurance. So they come in, some people join in, make money, and they go away without delivering the right value to people. So in conclusion, I'm going to say in two ways. At the macro level, for me, that is at the level of the government. The HMO industry is still at the startup phase because we're not getting it, we're not there yet. But at the level of each of the individual HMOs are different, with different HMOs that are in different phases. The top tier, the starters, they've gone through a period of maturity, they've invested again, they've cashed out, the likes of IGEA, the likes of THT, and the rest of them. The people that came in recently, the AXA Mansard, the Leadway, through strategic alliances and collaboration, they've become top players in the industry. They are doing very well. And there are people at the bottom also that they just want to make money and go, not really to add so much value.
Yeah, thank you so for the detailed explanation. You mentioned earlier regarding setting up a clear framework for financial management, sir. Could you please elaborate more on the most effective strategies for balancing reinvestment and spending to ensure a sustainable growth?
Yeah, with regards to balancing reinvestment and things like that, and with regards to what I said earlier in terms of, having a clear framework, it's just to be disciplined. I think the first two things I talked about there, that is number one, having a disciplined mindset, having a disciplined approach, which goes with you having a framework at the beginning. When you have a business plan, as I told you, part of the ideation stage, the conceptualization stage, you need to have a business plan. When you have a business plan, it ensures that you document everything. It ensures that you've written everything down, the way your financial department will be, the way your account department will be, the way your marketing will be, the way your operations will be, the way your customer service will be, you have everything laid out. So even if you are going to make mistake, you can easily go back there and look at it. That's the reason why you need to have a business plan. So there needs to be a clear structure. There needs to be a clear framework. It helps you. So this helps you in not mismanaging things. And as I told you, I use a case study of the ITV. Now, for example, imagine I'm not privy to the nitty-gritty of ITV in terms of the structure of the business, but we know that we said that at the ideation phase and at the startup phase, part of our focus should be having a very good structure in place. If there was a very good structure with ITV in terms of structure, there will be very good corporate governance. And that's part of having a right business plan. By the time your business is moving from the ideation phase to start up, you should be, before you get to the growth phase, you should have a good corporate governance structure in place. That's why we say a good structure. So when we say corporate governance, that means people that are going to check the CEO, people that are going to check whatever you do. So if the CEO is going to be responsible to a board, they're going to check whatever he does. So using ITV as a case study, so if the CEO, the CEO is going to be paid a salary. If he's paid a salary, then he does not have the right to do some things without getting certain approvals or something. So I think, one of the things that will help you in ensuring that you maintain a very good balance is having the right corporate governance process in time, having the right corporate structure in place, and also, as we said, having a disciplined approach. When you have a disciplined approach, that means you have control of your emotions in doing certain things. You don't spend based on emotions. You spend based on practical scenario and situations. So if you put all this together, this will help you in balancing your liquidity very well. And there's also what we call it what's the word for this? Consuming wealth. When consuming wealth is when people spend their money on things, illiquid assets that cannot easily be turned into liquidity. When people do that, then you might have a lot of assets, but those assets that you have, they are illiquid. You cannot easily turn them into liquid resources. And that means, so those are consuming wealth, so we must be able to get that very well. We buy a lot of liabilities rather than assets, things that, so we don't reinvest appropriately, you don't plow back into the business appropriately and things like that. Then, you're going to run into problems. So, the delayed gratification, I've talked about a lot of things, take them. Delayed gratification, we should look into that at the early phase. Look into, run away from consuming wealth, illiquid assets and things like that. Move away from that. Put clear frameworks in place. Have a disciplined approach to doing things. All these are the early phases, at the early stages. And yeah, then you're on the right short path to success. If you